We got to know a lot about Lalo in this 5th season. Lalo is by all means a formidable adversary for Gus. He's truly a challenge for Gus. After the first episode, I started to wonder, how is Gus even going to get the upper hand on Lalo? But as the season progressed, they definitely showed us very clearly how Gus is going to get the upper hand on Lalo. Actually, starting in the first episode, I just didn't put as much weight on what happened in the first episode as I should have. We've seen Lalo since he's come on to the show. He is an excellent detective. Even from last season, one of the shots we get of Lalo is he's watching Gus and what's going on with Gus at the chicken farm. He's taking notes. He's being a real detective. And this leads him to follow Mike and find Werner and make all the progress that he did last season in finding out what Gus is up to, finding out what Gus did not want Lalo to know. And then in the beginning of this season, it seemed like Lalo was going to continue to make that progress to seeing what Gus was up to because he's such a good detective. But what we saw this season is although Lalo is good at laser focus, Lalo can focus in on something and examine it and deduce what it means or where it should lead him to. Lalo cannot see the big picture. He's really, really bad at seeing the big picture. He's really bad at taking all the evidence that he's found, his examining, laser focus examining, and deciding what they mean when you put them together. He has an extremely hard time doing this in the first episode with the information that he has, which is Michael, Werner Ziegler, and the South Wall. He has those 3 pieces of information, but he can't see how they fit together. By the end of the episode, Lalo is sitting down with Gus, and Lalo can see that Gus is lying to him when Gus gives him the excuse as to where the bad product comes from. But even after Lalo shows Gus the construction progress, the construction project, the super lab, Lalo doesn't realize it's a lab. What the hell else would it be? Why would he think it's anything else but a super lab or a meth lab? Gus was keeping this secret. Why would Gus keep a chicken chiller secret? It's weird that Lalo's able to make so much progress in tracking down what Gus is up to. But then when he gets everything right in front of him, he can't actually see what's going on. In the second episode, 50% off, we get more of the same. We see the gang playing poker, and Domingo has the upper hand on Lalo in the hand that they're playing, but Domingo ends up folding. And Lalo doesn't see that Domingo folds because he doesn't feel like it's right for him to beat Lalo. Lalo is the guy in charge, and as often happens, Domingo feels like he should let him win. But this completely goes over Lalo's head. He doesn't notice any of this, and he calls Domingo Crazy 8 for being crazy for the way he played his cards. He can't see what Domingo was thinking that he folded his hand. And it's really easy to see that he just didn't want to beat Lalo. Also, in this same card game, we see Nacho start trying to work Lalo for Gus. He's trying to get close to Lalo. And Lalo blows Nacho off really hard at this point because it was a foolish point in time for Nacho to bring this topic up. But Lalo doesn't see why Nacho was motivated to talk about business at that moment. It was a weird thing for him to do, but Lalo doesn't get it. He just dismisses it. Later on in this episode, we see Lalo sitting in the driver's seat, watching Nacho break into the 5th Street house to get back the stash that was left there so that the police officers don't get it. Lalo is watching. If you watch that scene again, he doesn't have popcorn. He is eating something, but the sound that they play, it's someone eating popcorn. Like, they're really trying to give us the impression that Lalo feels like he's watching a movie. And it's so funny because that's what it seems like he's doing. And if you do rewatch that scene again, there is the sound of someone eating popcorn. So they really wanted us to get this feeling that Lalo felt like he was watching a movie. And he's entertained by Nacho's daringness. And he doesn't care what the result is. He thinks that Nacho is bound to be caught. And he's just watching in suspense, waiting for Nacho to get arrested in entertainment. And this is so foolish for Lalo to do. Domingo has been arrested, and that's a problem that they're going to have to deal with in the next episode. So if Domingo getting arrested is a whole issue that Lalo has to deal with, you think he'd realize he doesn't want Nacho arrested. But again, he doesn't see the big picture. He's just completely amused by the fact that Nacho would do this. When we get to the third episode, this is when Lalo hires Jimmy to make sure that Domingo gives the information that Lalo wants him to give. And when Jimmy finishes up and he reports into Lalo, they're at a racetrack. And we see that Lalo is just driving in circles. And so this is the moment when Jimmy tells Lalo that he now has Domingo as a go-between between Lalo and the DEA, and that he can use Domingo to his advantage for this. So this is the moment that we realize that Lalo's really now in a place to hurt Gus's business because he has a contact with the DEA. But oddly enough, at this moment, when Lalo makes all this progress, he's driving in circles. And that's what we see really the rest of the season. He feels like he's making so much progress with Gus. He manages to take the drop money. He manages to get some dealers arrested. He even manages to get Los Pollos or Hermanos set on fire. But he's completely unaware that Gus is aware of all of this, that Gus is actually managing everything that Lalo is doing. So it is like Lalo is just driving in circles with Gus. He thinks he's making progress in hurting Gus, but Gus is managing everything that Lalo does without Lalo realizing that he's managing it. By the time we get to Bagman, Lalo is really screwing up big time. He is completely missing the big picture. He wants Saul to go on this errand to pick up his $7 million. One of the things Saul says is, why don't you get one of your men to do it? And Lalo's response is if my two cousins, if the twins, cross the border and come here, that there's people who want to keep me in jail and that they'll mess with the twins. The twins will draw their attention and they'll try to interfere with me getting my bail money. This is so wrong. There's nothing about this statement that is correct. Gus is the reason Lalo is getting out of jail. Mike delivered all the evidence that Saul needed to present to the court to get Lalo out on bail. And he did it because Gus told him to. On top of this, it is Don Juan, south of the border, who actually is a threat to taking Lalo's $7 million. So one, Lalo thinks there is a threat for the cousins to cross the border because of Gus. And that's not true. Two, Lalo thinks the cousins are safe south of the border, that nobody's going to mess with the $7 million they carry. And that's not true either. The cousins garner attention south of the border. And Don Juan makes a plan to take Lalo's bail money. So Lalo completely got all of that wrong. We get one more scene with Lalo and Bagman. It's when Kim visits him. And again, they demonstrate how Lalo cannot see the big picture. When Kim's sitting down and she first introduces herself, and then we see Lalo, he has to very slowly piece together why Kim is there. You know, he says, oh, you're his wife and you were worried about him, so you came to see me. Lalo is not very intuitive. An intuitive person, as soon as Kim was there, would have just put the whole thing together, like Gus. Gus would have just immediately realized why Kim was standing in front of him. He would have understood her motivations. But Lalo's not intuitive like that. Lalo cannot see the big picture. It takes him a while to put it together. And it's so well demonstrated when he gives this line to Kim, because as he's delivering the line, you can almost see his brain moving and piecing things together. This is, again, really reinforced in Bad Choice Road when Kim has to lay out the truth to Lalo and explain to him that whether or not he trusts Saul Goodman isn't his problem. His problem is that he needed Saul Goodman to begin with. He is a leader of a drug cartel with lots of men underneath him, and he couldn't trust any of those men to pick up the money. That is Lalo's big problem. Lalo gets in the car with Nacho after that, and that's when he changes his mind. And instead of Nacho dropping him off, Nacho's coming south of the border with him. Kim has changed Lalo's mind. Lalo needs a man he can trust. And so he's going to have Nacho bumped up. But he doesn't see that Nacho is working against him. Nacho's been working against him the whole season, and Lalo's completely clueless to it. Okay, so maybe Nacho's done a good job, actually, and hasn't given Lalo too many reasons to be suspicious. But when they're in Lalo's home, he gets a lot of reasons to suspect Nacho, specifically when all the events go down in the end. So it's 3 a.m., Nacho realizes it's time, and he says to Lalo, "You got anything stronger?" Lalo tells him where to get it. When Nacho comes back, Lalo says to him, "Did you get lost?" He noticed that Nacho was gone too long just to get the drinks. And then he immediately notices the smoke, and he runs into the kitchen, and even though he just noticed, because he's a good detective and he notices things, he notices details, even though he just noticed that it took Nacho way too long to get the alcohol, he never thinks that it could have been Nacho behind the fire. He starts to blame, I forget his name, and the dude's denying it, and even with the dude denying it and everything, he never thinks maybe that's what Nacho was doing. Maybe that's what took him so long. In the very end, we see, Lalo is having the phone call made to let Gus know that the mission was complete, even though it wasn't, which brilliant move by Lalo. This is going to really give him a scary advantage in season 6. We see Lalo look over to where him and Nacho were sitting, and he notices Nacho isn't there. After that, Lalo gets up and it's such a fantastic ending. I've watched that ending several times just to listen to the sound of Lalo's feet on those rocks. It's really, really great. But anyways, I'm not convinced that Lalo is like, "Oh, Nacho did this to me." I mean, he probably is, but I'm not 100% convinced of it at all because he's missed so much of the big picture. There's no reason that we should 100% believe that Lalo realizes it's Nacho who set him up. It's very, very possible that Lalo cannot see this because Lalo is awful at seeing the big picture. So again, I'm not convinced when season 6 opens that Lalo is going to be after Nacho. I think there's a good chance that he's going to think something happened to Nacho, or that Nacho ran to avoid getting shot, or anything but Nacho is a double agent. We're going to have to see. I mean, most characters would figure this out, but again, they spent the whole season, every episode that Lalo was in, they gave us a moment that showed us that Lalo cannot see the big picture. Lalo is going to be a formidable opponent for Gus. There's no doubt about it. But this is how Gus is going to get the upper hand on Lalo. Lalo gets buried in details and misses the big picture. There are more videos I have coming out on season 5. Season 5 was huge. It was an amazing season. And I will have more videos up, specifically a video for each bad choice road and something unforgivable. Plus, even more. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.